Right, today I'm going to show you how to put a clutch into a Yamaha Thunderace. Now the reason I've had to take the clutch out is I bought a second-hand engine and couldn't get it running, so I got it running. Then number 3 cylinder wouldn't work, so I got that working. Then when I tried putting it into gear, it wouldn't go into gear. It was clunky. And when I did shove it in gear, it was rattling its tits off. And this is the reason why. All because of that pipe. Now I shall show you where that pipe goes in a minute, because that pipe lives, half of it lives in the sump and half of it lives in the bottom of the clutch housing. I had to use my own pulley to get this off because this had stuck onto the shaft due to the lack of oil. Now luckily it hadn't seized, but it was very nearly seizing. This washer, I don't know if you can see it, but it's gone blue around the edges. Obviously that's where it's getting hot. You can see some scoring as well. This washer, again, you can see some hot patches where it's got really hot, and on the other side you can definitely see where it's scored like mad. Now I'll show you where these bits, I'll show you how these bits were put in this engine incorrectly, and I'll show you how to put them in correctly. I'll be back in a minute. Right, these are the old bits, the old knackered bits that are scored, that I've taken out. So you should be able to see there, as I showed you before, the hot spots there and there around the edge. Look, so you can see around the edge, and you can see the hot spots there, and that's a little pulley I've had to make to bring it, to pull it out. That's the bearing, that's the clutch basket. Right, I'm not going to bother putting them back in because over there you might not be able to see because it's quite sunny. But over there, look, I had some spares, so I'm going to be putting them in. Down there are the spare bearings and washers, etc. So that's what it looks like inside a Yamaha Thunderace clutch casing. If we look in there, that's the crankshaft, that's the crankshaft, that's the crankshaft. Obviously when your pistons are going up and down, that's spinning, that cog's spinning round. That's your oil pump. That is your gearbox shaft. That is your gear selector. That's where your gear, on the other end of that, that's where your gear pedal goes. That's a gear position sensor thing in there. That's just a little oil pipe. Right. Now, for those mechanics out there, you will notice that there's something missing out of there, and it goes here, where that hole is. Right, I've got the sump off at the moment, that's why you can see through to the floor, and that's what this pipe's for. This pipe, okay, sits in there like that. So as you can see, now this engine didn't have one of them in, so I had to rob it off another engine, and that's one of the reasons why them bearings and thrust washers on the floor have burnt, because this wasn't in and because it's been put in incorrectly. So that's the shaft. Now I won't bother putting the clutch basket on, but imagine that basket there is sat on there. What they've done is they've put this, in fact I'll show you with the burnt ones. They'd put this one, the big washer, with the slits in. They'd put that on first, like that. Then they'd slid that on. Then they'd put the bearing in. And then they put that on. That's wrong. Okay, so let's take these off. Right, this is how it should go on. The little washer, you've got two, a bigger and a little one. One's got slits in, one hasn't. The little washer goes on first, and you can see there it matches. Okay, if I take that off and put the big one on, you can see that doesn't match, it's too big. So that goes on first. Then the bearing and that. That's how it should be. Okay, now the reason for these, see them holes, see that hole there? We've got two little holes there, look. That's where the oil flies through. Okay, which lubricates the bearing. And that there, that oil sticks in that as it's spinning round and flicks it round like that. Okay. So the very first job I need to do is put this back on. It doesn't just sit like that. There's a clip underneath. Okay, and I'll show you where that goes now. So this is the sump. That's the pipe. Okay, that sticks into the sump like that. Right. But first of all I need to put on a retaining clip underneath in the sump part of it. That's why I've had to take the sump off, because that holds that pipe in place. If it wasn't in place it might rattle and fly off and hit the clutch basket as it's spinning round. So I shall do that. Once I've done that I shall get back to you when I'm putting the clutch basket in. Right. I'm all ready now to put this in. Now this applies to when you're taking it out as well. What you've got to do is make sure that the big counterweight on the crank doesn't get in the way. Okay? And you've also got to take the bearing out first and put it back in last. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reassemble this. So the first thing to go in is the small washer. Remember, there's two washers, a big and a little. We want the small one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray it just a bit of penetrating oil, that's all. So that one goes in there like that. This then slides on. Now you've got to sort of like go in at an angle, get it on the shaft, like that. Right, so what we need to do now is put in the bearing and that big thrust thing. So that's in now. I don't know if you can just see, or I don't think you can see, but inside the engine you can't see, it's just too dark. It didn't actually line up. That big sprocket on the crank, that's what that big sprocket down there lines up with. Now it will do when we put the centre bits in, so just bear with me while I put that in. Right, so now I've slid on the big metal thing, I don't know what it's called, and I've put the bearing in as well, that thin bearing. So that now is sat on. I can turn that round and the basket stays still because the basket is locked into the crankshaft. Okay, now if I turned this, I can't do it at the moment because I've got all spark plugs in, but that would turn the engine. So when the engine's spinning round, this is spinning round as well. Okay, so what we need to do now is put on the centre bit. Oops. Don't forget that big washer. Like that. Right, as you can see there, that's well and truly fucking hammered. I've got another spare one of these in cellar, so if you bear with me, I'll go get it. Got the spare one. That's the one that's knackered there. There, look. And that one's a lot cleaner. Okay. Them little holes there for lubrication where the oil goes round. Some more there. Okay. So you can see there we've got the big washer. So we're going to put this on now. That just slides onto the splines like that. Okay. So there we've got the big basket, and we've got this is the clutch housing, and we've got the other one that goes in between. This is where your plates sit on. Right, you should always renew these. Now as it happens I haven't got any new ones and I can't get to the shop, so I'm going to choose the best one, which is that, and then obviously the nut. You'll see in here, there's a little groove and that's where them sit. There's another one on the other side, look. So they're sitting there like that. Yep, like that. And then the screw, the nut, just goes on. That doesn't want to go up. So I'm going to try the other one. It's a bit hard trying to do this with one hand while I'm holding the camera with the other hand. Right, so what I need to do now is tighten that up, and then them little flaps there, bend them back across the nut so that they won't, you know, the nut won't come undone then. So I'll do that, I'll tighten that up, and then I shall get back to you. YouTube video. Right, that's in, the nut's on, and that retainer thing is bent back, and what a pain they are to do. But anyway, so I'm going to put the clutch plates in now. That's what these are. You've got two kinds, you've got that and you've got that. And they go in alternate, so you'll put one of them in first, then that, then that, then that, then that, then that, that, and so on. So I'll do that now, and what I do is, as I'm putting each one on, I squirt a bit of oil in, like that. So I'll just squirt a bit of oil on. So when I put them in, I'll get back to you. Right, all the clutch plates are in now. We've got to put this on. This is the outer casing. Okay. Now there's a few things we need to put in there. First, we've got one washer, one bearing, one thrust finger, and one ball bearing. Okay, so this is how it goes in first. In there, squirt a bit of oil. Ball bearing goes in there. Bit of oil. That. Make sure there's a rubber ring on there. That goes in there. Push it in. It should spin round. Bit of oil. Bearing. Bit of oil. Washer. Bit of oil. And now this. That hole there lines up there. So hole, hole. Springs with a nut. They slide in like that. Tighten all them up. You tighten them crisscross. Until you've tightened them up. And I'll show you what that looks like when they're tightened up. Ready?
Yep.
Right, clutch is back in now, all bled up, and if you watch, that's what should happen when you push the clutch lever in. So the clutch lever's in, out, and that's what's happened. So that's working fine, is that now? That's perfect. Right,
That'll do that.